Is UFC 312 worth the pay-per-view price on Super Bowl weekend? Many fans have been asking, is UFC 312 really worth the money this weekend? The lineup hasn't exactly wowed everyone, and some are questioning if this pay-per-view is worth the cost. This Saturday's event from Sydney, Australia, may not have the most exciting fights on paper, but does Dricus du Plessis feel like the true middleweight king? Some fans are still waiting for a champion with that elite, unbeatable aura. Also, what will it take for the UFC to finally address fighters making offensive comments during their downtime? Dricus du Plessis has done what many thought Sean Strickland couldn't. He's defended his title. He hasn't lost in the UFC and has finished 4 of his last 5 opponents. Even if some think he doesn't look impressive in the cage, he's beaten and finished fighters like Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya. Are we really going to say his 8 consecutive wins, plus a title defense, are all due to luck? Yes, we'd all love to see him face new challenges, but he can only fight the opponents in front of him. And in the UFC, he's won them all. Now, about UFC 312 being scheduled for Super Bowl weekend. The UFC used to go big on this weekend, with legendary fights like Georges St. Pierre versus BJ Penn. However, it seems like they've shifted to saving their best matchups for weekends they own outright. For many fans, the Super Bowl weekend is all about football. Do people really want to spend extra money on a UFC pay-per-view the night before the biggest sports event in America? Probably not, as many would rather spend that money on snacks for the big game. For me, Zhang Weili and Tatiana Suarez are the main reasons to pay for UFC 312. Zhang is an underrated, well-rounded fighter, and Suarez has battled through so much adversity to reach her first UFC title shot. I'm personally invested in seeing how her journey unfolds. As for the rest of the card, du Plessis vs Strickland 2 is a rematch no one seemed to ask for, and the rest of the card doesn't feel like must-see TV. It feels more like a regular UFC fight night in Sydney than a big pay-per-view event. Now, about free speech and UFC fighters saying controversial things. The idea that UFC CEO Dana White is too committed to free speech to take action is laughable. The UFC has punished fighters in the past for saying the wrong things, and it's even blacklisted journalists for reporting facts the UFC didn't like. It has banned certain national flags from fights and edited out political comments from post-fight interviews. The truth is, the UFC won't take action unless something threatens its bottom line. If sponsors or broadcast partners raise concerns, the UFC might respond. But otherwise, it's all about protecting the brand and the money. When it comes to the heavyweight division, it's clear UFC has focused more on the brand than on building star fighters. The fighters are often interchangeable. Look at how the UFC fumbled its relationship with Francis Ngannou, the last true heavyweight star, and badmouthed him all the way out the door. In the end, UFC is still making money because of its brand, not just because of individual fighters. Even if the heavyweight division lacks depth, the machine keeps rolling. And with lighter weight classes, UFC isn't running out of talent anytime soon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more updates.